So I just recently watched John Wick Chapter 3, and honestly, the way I feel about that movie, it's pretty much the exact same way that I feel about Return of the Jedi, in that it's the most entertaining of the three films, but it has the most narrative problems. The movie opens up right where John Wick Chapter 2 leaves off, where he's running through the city, rain's pouring down, he's got his dog with him. Where's he gonna go? What's he gonna do? Well, he goes to this library, talks to the librarian, basically says some weird shit in Russian, like he's looking for this particular book. She says, go ahead, second floor. So he goes up, finds this book, pulls it out, opens it up, and it's not really a book, it's like a storage thing. And it's got what appears to be some sort of a rosary. It's got like a sigil, and it's got a bunch of those coins that he used to use at the Continental. So he takes all that shit and he's ready to go, and all of a sudden, blocking the library stack is this huge dude, like 7'6" dude, monster of a guy. And John Wick's basically like, hey, I got 10 more minutes. And this guy is like, well, $14 million is a lot of money, and who would know? So John Wick gets into a fight in the library stacks with this like towering monster of a dude, and he overpowers him using the very book that had all the shit that he took, and he jams this thing into this guy's mouth and just goes like, like that, and then he twists the book and the guy's jaw just goes like that. Then John Wick picks him up by like the back of the shirt, lays the book down on the table, puts the dude's head on top of it, and then just goes like, snaps his neck using a hardcover book. So badass. This movie was so violent. There's like this other scene that follows actually shortly after that, where he gets into a knife fight with all these dudes, like throwing knives at each other and shit. He's got this one dude in like kind of an arm bar, and he's like pushing the knife in, and the dude's trying to like block him, and the knife's getting closer and closer to his eye, and then when it stabs his eye, you hear like this popping sound. It's just like, ooh, that is gruesome. I love it. There's a scene where just before the knife fight, where he goes into this like place that has a lot of guns, and he smashes the glass on this thing, and he dissects like 3 different revolvers and makes his own like specified gun that he can use with ease. And it was a scene, I swear to God, like right out of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But honestly, it totally worked for John Wick. I don't even mind that they kind of borrowed that. It was really, really sick. Halle Berry, surprisingly, didn't have as big a part in this movie as I thought she would. She was really only in like one part when he goes to Casablanca to try and get help. Before that, he cashes in his rosary to Angelica Houston, who runs this weird-ass like ballet place, but it's like a hidden Russian fight club assassin training school weird thing. And it's apparently where John Wick, you know, had originally trained, so we learn a little bit about his character. Anyways, he gets that. They get him safe passage to Casablanca, where he meets Halle Berry, who has 2 very well-trained German shepherds. And I mean, I'm here to say that for the brief amount of time that she was in that movie, she kicked ass, dude. She did as much ass kicking as Keanu Reeves. Her training was amazing. They fought and shot like exactly the same. The dogs, holy crap. There is a scene where this freaking dog jumps on Halle Berry's back and leaps, I swear to God, it must be like 10 feet up a wall, and like starts attacking this guy. And I mean, I would have really just automatically dismissed that as CGI, but I've actually heard that that was real. That's amazing. That is nothing shy of amazing if that was real time. I rewound it a couple times. I honest to godly can't tell. Special effects have gotten that good today that I truthfully don't know. John Wick is looking for this guy who they call the Elder. John Wick refers to him as the one who sits above the table. So some godlike assassin dude, we presume. So John Wick goes on this journey through the desert, and he's like half dead by the time he finally reaches this guy, and this guy basically says to him, well, like, you broke the rules, you screwed up. Why should I help you? Why do you want to get back in the game? Why do you want forgiveness? And John Wick basically said he wants to keep on living so that he can remember his wife. Okay. But the guy basically says, like, all right, well, here's your penance. Go back to the Continental and kill Winston. And I'm sort of like, nah, there's no way John Wick's gonna kill Winston. Like, he's his homie. And Winston's a really freaking awesome character. But John Wick agrees to it. And I'm sort of like, I didn't quite trust that, because I'm like, there's no way that he would, just solely for the memory of his wife who's already gone. I mean, like, really, like, how is he honoring her name if he just lives as a freaking assassin? So I kind of figured that the only reason he agreed to that was because he had an ace in the hole or he had a plan. But at any rate, he chops off his ring finger as, like, kind of like a sacrifice, and he agrees to go back and kill Winston. Then he meets with Winston, and it looks like he's really actually planning to do it. I think he actually was really planning to kill Winston, and I'm sort of like, that is so messed up on so many levels. But Winston basically says, like, look, man, you know, the high table is a pain in the ass. They've been a pain in the ass for a long time, and why don't we team up? Okay, I'll use my resources at the New York Continental. That's important. The New York Continental, and together we'll fight this. We'll fight until we have nothing left in us. And like, kind of drop of the hat, John Wick agrees. Personally, I think it would have been better if that had just been his plan all along, because it didn't seem very feasible that he would be so gung-ho about something and then switch so quickly. But I didn't want him to kill Winston. The two are good friends, and I was happy to see that. And not for nothing, I was like, great, this is what's going to happen now. We're going to see some baller-ass action. And we did. John Wick gets thrown through, like, literally a million different glass panes. I'm not even joking. Like, the end of this movie, he has to get thrown through probably close to 20 different glass displays. It's insane. But the thing that's funny about this is that the main assassin bad guy in this one is almost like a John Wick fanboy. He's almost like, John Wick, like, it's an honor to be the one who's gonna kill you. So far, you have not disappointed. And his students, his two henchmen, actually get the upper hand on John Wick. They beat the freaking tar out of him, and they reach out their hands to help him up. You know, and they're kind of taunting him. They're like, he's John Wick, he's old, he's tired, you know, he's been out of the game for 5 years. What did you expect? It's clear that they're screwing with him, but there is also like a level of respect. They're like, come on, you're a worthy adversary, come on. So the first time he takes their hands and they help him up and they're fighting, and then the second time they knock the shit out of him, they offer their hands again, and he goes like this. And then he takes off his belt and he starts like whoosh, 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 just, yeah. And so he beats the tar out of those two guys, and he actually elects to let them live. It's just a really good fight. I don't really have to go into like how that goes down, but the bad guy in this was really interesting because he was almost like a sportsman, and he had that kind of like Captain Kirk versus the Romulans thing where he was sort of like, you know, in another life, I think we would have been really good friends. So he was a really cool villain. I liked him. Then there's the ending. The ending that I really have to say makes absolutely zero sense. So basically, this lady who's sort of like gets sent in by the high table to like assess things and deal punishments as they see fit, basically calls for a parlay with Winston and John Wick, and the three of them meet on the rooftop. And Winston's basically like, you know, well, I want the Continental of New York back. I want to retain my power. And her reaction to that is like, you are showing a feat of strength. Like she's actually considering it. It's like, what? He betrayed the high table. That's an honor thing all of a sudden? Like he showed a feat of strength, so now he's potentially eligible, but she's like, okay, but you have to swear your allegiance to the high table. And he's like, you have it. And she basically goes like, what are we gonna do about him? And she points to John Wick, and he goes like, simple. And he pulls out a gun. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, because I mean, John Wick's got his bulletproof suit on, you know? So I'm thinking, Winston totally knows, like, there's a platform down there or something. No, you see John Wick fall off of the building top, hit a freaking railing, and then hit the ground. I mean, the dude drops at least 5 stories. At least. And it's like, I mean, I guess suspension of disbelief that he would still be alive, but it's sort of like, you know, she's like, okay, now you've proven yourself. And then I'm still expecting them to wrap it up with like Winston meets with, you know, John Wick at the end and basically says like, you know, they think you're dead, but you're free now, you know, go live your life in peace, John Wick, or something like that. But they didn't. Winston is sort of like, what the hell is that word? He says that like, ominously, like, now he's gonna come for me. And Lawrence Fishburne's character, who you find out is still alive, is basically leading the Bowery from the underground and is like, are you pissed off, John Wick? And he's like, yeah. So the next movie is probably gonna be about John Wick just honestly taking on everybody, which is fine and typical of John Wick, but the thing that I don't get, the thing that really makes zero sense, is the whole reason why Winston got into all this shit with the high table was because he elected in John Wick Chapter 2 to give John Wick 1 hour. He stuck to his guns in being John Wick's friend, thick and thin, and then all of a sudden he flips it all around and he's like, no, this is a show of power. I want back my power at the Continental. It's like, you do realize that if you hadn't helped John Wick in the first place, you wouldn't have had to reclaim your position of power at the Continental. It's not even a 180, it's a 360. And it makes me worry for John Wick Chapter 4. I was really hoping that this movie was going to be the Continental, as in like the Continental in New York and Rome and wherever, going up against the high table, like a freaking war, like where assassins choose sides. Maybe that's what they're going for in Chapter 4, but considering the fact that Winston and John Wick's relationship has been all but severed, I don't really see how that's going to happen. It just bugs me. But, you know, that's all she wrote.